So first of all, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Gigi DeVortman-Lee. I have a very long name, and I am a first-year GAB student running for International Officer. I'm from California, and this is my first time studying in England, so I'm very excited.
Cool. And we have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, what extra support do you think international students need, and how will you provide this?
So I definitely think in terms of my personal experience with our previous international officer, Jess, she was incredible and like she was extremely helpful, and she got in one of our big group chats that we made over the summer, which I thought was really helpful because she was able to answer a lot of questions personally. And I get that there's a lot of anxiety over the summer when you're moving to a new country, starting a new school. So I definitely think I want to be involved like really early on in the summer, being able to answer questions. I definitely also know that the visa process is very, very stressful. And because I've gone through it before from the States, I feel like I can answer a lot of and address those questions. And I'm also experienced with like things in Canada too, because I did my undergraduate there. So I think that having a lot of early support and being able to answer questions really early on about just like general like fears about moving there, and getting involved in like the Facebook groups, and just being like really present early on where people I think have the most anxiety about moving here is probably going to be my biggest goal in supporting international students.
Cool, and that leads on really nicely to the next question, which you sort of mentioned, is if you could just achieve one thing next year, what would it be?
Easing fears and anxieties about moving to a new place, a new country, and settling in. And even though I also like live in a student res right now, so I could also address questions like that. And I know that some people don't always choose to move in halls. They live and try to find accommodation, like private accommodation. And even though I don't have as much experience with that, I definitely have friends who have and who have moved their pets, let's say, from another country to here. So I'd be able to hopefully get them in contact with other students who have done that. And so I think my biggest goal is to like ease fears and anxieties moving to a new place early on.
Amazing. And the last one was just, what sort of experience do you have that you think will make you good for this role?
Well, I've studied in several countries. So I've studied in the US, in France, and in Canada. So I feel like I've been able to, and I've gotten like study visas for all those places except for Canada, but I'm a citizen. But I feel like I have a lot of experience moving to different countries, especially at like a young age. I feel like I'm a pretty organized person, and so that I've been able to tackle a lot of issues and I'm able to like multitask really well. So I'll be able to hopefully be involved in many like group chats and Facebook groups to hopefully address everyone's concerns as well as possible. And I also really like helping people. So I really like being useful and helping people with their problems. And so I hope I'll be able to do that as international officer.
Cool, thank you so much. Do you have any questions before? I know you have to sort of head off this evening.
No, I don't think so. But I wish everyone luck running for your respective positions.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming, because I appreciate that you're running uncontested for your role, but it's still really good to be able to ask you these questions and see what your plans are.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for hosting it.
No worries. So if we go on to the next role, we've got our IVSA representative, and I believe Elizabeth is here.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Sorry, just one sec.
Also, just to say that anyone watching and other candidates, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat as we go along. Hello, so do you want to just introduce yourself to everyone quickly?
Hi, yep. So my name is Elizabeth Brooks. I am running for IVSA Rep. I'm a second year from the US, so currently not home in New Jersey because of the pandemic and all that. Yep.
Cool. So we'll get straight on to the questions. We've got a few. So how do you plan to keep IVSA going if we can't do international exchanges?
Yeah, so I think my biggest thing is just keeping like lines of communication open between us and like other vet schools throughout the world. I think because of the pandemic, unfortunately, like, sorry, I just came, so I'm a little bit out of breath. Been running around. Because of the pandemic, you know, it's again like really up in the air if we will be able to have physical exchanges. So I think we need to be like prepared for the possibility of having to try to do this virtually, because I think you know, still meeting new people and exchanging ideas is possible virtually. And I think I would try to use more social media and less Zoom meetings, just because I think, you know, everybody's pretty bored of them at this point, and they're kind of hard to, it's hard to get to know someone over kind of like a formal format like that. So yeah, I would just really try to jump into the whole social media platform as a way to try to connect different vet schools in different countries.
Cool, that sounds amazing. I think you've sort of answered the next question, which was how will you keep interest in IVSA without travel, which is sort of along the same lines, but feel free to add anything if you'd like.
Yeah, so I think basically what I said, like just using social media as a platform to get to know different students and, you know, cultures and that sort of thing. I think in COVID times, we really have to get creative with how to connect with people. But, you know, there's so many like vet Instagrams that I think really do a good job at like getting across like ideas and inspiration and all that sort of stuff. So I think we could use kind of the same thing in terms of like connecting different schools and different like vet students and all that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just this is one of the questions that was asked to everyone. If you could achieve one thing next year, what would it be?
I think my biggest goal in this role would be to just open up lines of communications between different vet schools. I would really just, you know, love to be able to do like some sort of event. I mean, ideally in person, but if not, like some sort of big, um, like I guess social event, where like, you know, different vet students could just like get to know each other and, you know, make like different relationships and stuff. So yeah, I think like my biggest goal next year and like in general for this position would be just to open up those lines of communication and just to kind of get people start talking and start getting to know each other.
Amazing. Well, that's all the questions for your role, but thank you very much for coming and for answering those questions. There are a few general questions later that it might be nice to get you involved with, but we shall move on to the next position. I don't think that we have anyone for our environmental officer role here this evening. I don't think she could make it. So we will move on to our entertainment officer role, which I know we've got two people running. We've got Seb and Remy, who I believe are both here. So you guys can both put your cameras on if you're happy.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay, so if we start off with the question that was asked to everyone, which is if you achieve oh, you guys haven't even introduced yourself. My bad. Because I've spoken to you so much recently. Would you like to introduce yourself? Seb, seeing as your camera's come up, would you like to go first?
Okay, well, I'm Sebastian Miller. I'm on the BVM 2 program. I'm applying for entertainment officer. I've been entertainment officer this year, but was not satisfied with what I was able to do. So that's why I'm here to fulfill everything I wanted to do for the university. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Remy, are you happy to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, cool, coming up. Yeah, sorry, my name is Remy. I'm on the accelerated year, just started. I'm also an ex-nursing student, so I've been there 4 years. So I've kind of gotten used to the RVC traditions, what's worked, what hasn't worked. Spent most time at Hawksford as well, and I'm a London girl, so I don't want to say no my way around. That doesn't sound the right way, but yeah, hoping to hopefully have a fun time with you all.
We've had quite a lot of questions for Entertainment Officer. I feel like people really care about their freshers experience, especially as they've been deprived this year. So the first question is, what new ideas do you have for Freshers 2021? So Remy, if you want to go first.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've heard in my video, if you've seen it, I kind of wanted to start off with start something new, which is kind of want to keep throughout the whole year, because I know freshers is the most big thing everyone thinks about, but university is hard, so I want to make sure that everyone's constantly doing something new. So stuff like pole dancing, rollerblading, painting, coding, that I was interested in that because people need to try something new. So there's also that. So for freshers events, going to the club is probably one of the biggest things. So obviously trying to find the best deals. I'm a tiger girl. If anyone's been like to Roxy or what's the name? Like Piccadilly Institute, which we've been to loads of times before, it's really good. And also party on the pitch. Basically try and think, if it's possible, hay bales outside, drinks, nice weather, live music if possible at Hawkshead. And I want to have events between Hawkshead and London to get people bouncing between them.
Thanks very much, Remy. Seb, do you want to contribute?
All right, so basically for me, yeah, freshers is the thing. I've had a lot of ideas and I've had an entire year to prepare what I initially wanted to do back last year, but unfortunately was not able to. I wanted to start, the first thing I noticed when I was a fresher was there wasn't much, the social interaction part before the night out was very awkward. So we would all be, they'd put us in the Haxby and, it's everyone in there, we're all new. And I remember, everyone's just kind of like grouped in and like the few people they might have like talked to previously. But then everyone was kind of like sitting on the couches or just kind of in their own area. And there wasn't really any occasion for me to like, or anyone to just go over and just start a conversation because, I mean, it's a bit awkward. So I want to definitely introduce for all the events for freshers is the essential is pre-games. So I want to do activities, whether it be like the typical pre-games, like, beer pong or various different activities, so that people start socializing, they laugh, they drop their, if I want to say awkward their awkward boundaries down. And they're like, they let themselves open to interacting. And then from there, once we go to the night out, you're much more likely, I believe, to go over to someone that you talk to for a bit on the night on when you're at pre's, and then you actually have a fun night and make memories. And then you make friendships, other than just like, going in the club, you see that person, you're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that person, but I'm not going to go over there because I just saw them and I don't know them. And I found that to be really lacking in terms of like interaction. And I also want to introduce events with other unis, so not just RVC, because that's something I also, for me and lots of people, we only know people from RVC. There's not really many occasions for us to go out. There was a King's night, but again, we didn't pre with them before, so it was just people at the club. So I want to introduce and like socialize with other unis inside the uni, and like and also once I've done freshers, I want to introduce like events where we can actually socialize with other years, other courses. I want to introduce new themes for the event. I want to spice it up. I want to keep the traditions, but I want to mix it up, especially this whole year where we've had online. We need a year with full-on fun. We need a year to party. So that's a few of the ideas I've got. And I mean, yeah, a lot of the other stuff, like I've already mentioned in my video or my manifesto, but yeah, just as fun club nights, but focusing on the pre-games.
Cool, sounds like some really good ideas there. We've had a couple of questions come through in the chat that have actually been submitted as well. So obviously great minds think alike. So we've got one question here about, Gareth says, what about students who don't want to get involved in drinking culture? And that works quite nicely. We had a question about, do you have any plans for non-drinking activities that aren't just aimed at under 18s? So Seb, do you want to kick off with this one?
Okay, well, for me, I definitely want to get, as much as like I get that some people will be underage, I want to get them still enjoying. We don't, like, if we do beer pong, yes, the typical drink you're having there's beer, but we can put water, we can put cranberry juice. The drink isn't the element that a lot of people think that, yeah, as much as drinking alcohol is gonna make you more approachable and like, you know, you're not as like awkward about it. That's not for me. I don't believe that. You can drink your cranberry juice and still be part of the games. I'm not going to put you guys in like a game on the side just because you guys aren't 18 yet and just like isolate you so that you're in your little group of like under 18s. I want you to meet people in your year. I want you to actually socialize. As much as I know it's annoying that you won't be able to come out, we can still organize events that you can then go with your group of under 18s to do during the night out or evenings to do after. But I would definitely want to integrate them in the whole pre-element, which is why that's the whole reason why I want to do these pre-games, because otherwise if it was just awkward standing and then people go to the club, the under 18s are just there like, well, great. Now I'm left out on my own and nothing I can do about it. So, okay, I'm having such a great freshers. So I want to integrate them in the pre's, and then as much as the over 18s get to go to the club, we're still going to have some activities to do with them. Spice it up, yeah.
Thanks, Seb. Remy, what would you like to add?
Yeah, no, I agree with Seb. That it's that awkwardness. You're just starting uni, or you've either been to another uni, but you don't really know many people because I guess this uni is quite niche. So I do think the main thing I want to really to get everyone to just talk to different people, get out their zone. I don't want to force people to have to talk to each other, but I think whether it's drink related or not drink related, if I can say, oh, you know, there's someone here that beforehand, if I can work out, say, oh, there's someone here that's either in your course or a different year, or that just has a similar, what's the word? I don't know, similar hobby, something to you, and you have to find them. So kind of like having mingling parties. I hate the word mingling. And also, not events have to be drink heavy. So I really like stuff like game shows and comedy events. So I was also talking about in my video stuff like doing what's it called, Take Me Out. And I think that can be done in person and also on Zoom. So I think that would be hilarious. Working with we're probably going to have to be with other universities, trying to get some guys in. It's a little bit quite biased in the university. So stuff like that, keeping it light, fun. It doesn't have to be drink related. So I think having those options there would be really good.
Perfect. We have another question that's sort of doubled up in the chat, which was asking that in the past, this role has been done by two people as a pair together. So Sam's asking if you would be open to working together, and we have a question that was submitted previously that says how do you think you're going to balance this if it's just a one-person role? So Remy, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I think first of all, it's a lot weighted on your shoulders with this role, and by all means, I'm going to need help. If I do get a position, I'm going to need help from the previous candidates anyway. So I'm going to need help from Seb and Pam, because you guys done an amazing job. And plus, to switch things over last minute is ridiculous and scary. So I'm going to need your guys' help anyway. And I'm actually going to need advice from other people, because I need to know what everyone else likes. So I think having an openness there, saying, let me know what you're interested in, I can open up to that. And to answer the fact that it is a busy role, I don't know, a lot of people, so I'll be going to third year next year, and because I'm doing accelerated, a lot of people have said, yeah, third year is going to be a bit more chill compared to this year. So fingers crossed with that. And yeah, I think hopefully I can have a bit more time. I'm used to having to organise my time, because I've had to organise events in the past while I'm doing my finals in my previous degree. So I think I should have that figured out by now. I'm glad third year is definitely more chill.
Okay, and Sev?
Yeah, so like I definitely think the fact that this year I've been actually with Pam, one of the entertainment officer, I've definitely, one of the perks of not having been able to do the whole social, like going out, is I've fully experienced the whole, if I want to say, bureaucracy. So how, as much as like, you know, having the ideas and like, you know, talking to people and like setting up, but like the bureaucracy behind like how to set it up, the meetings to go to, and the fact that this entire year I've kind of already been prepping. I've been prepping the entire year, hoping that we would be resuming potentially, you know, second term. Oh yeah, we'll have a freshers in this first week, everything online again. And I was like, third term, yeah, it'll be fine. We'll have something. So I've always constantly been prepping for the best occasion, and it's just never come. So I've already prepared a lot of the events that I've already thought about. I've already prepared logistics and what I want to do, costings, and like really thinking about, like, I've got the idea. If I can actually take it and fly with it, I'm ready. I know what to do. And yeah, no, like I definitely agree with Remy in the sense that as much as like this is done in passing two people, like I definitely will, like Remy's had some great ideas, which if I do get voted, like I'll definitely like love to work with her. And obviously still going to call on Pam, who's always got brilliant ideas and has been a great entertainment officer with me this year. But yeah, no, like I feel I'm up for the challenge. I know how the role works. I've understood the full, the full aspect, or would I say, in my opinion, the not so fun aspect, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I feel ready. I feel confident. I feel ready. And yeah, no, I think I could do a year full of fun events. So yeah.
Cool. I feel like you guys have got loads of questions coming in here on the chat and also pre-submitted. So I'm just going to pick a few and then we can always come back to you guys later when we've had a chat to some other people. But just to take some from the chat, if we sort of combine a couple of things, that Hasita's mentioned, how will you cater to students who may be parents or they may live far away? And Gareth has said, what's your plans to involve postgrad students? So how would you combat those sorts of things? Seb, if you want to go.
Okay. Well, yeah, for me, so obviously I was talking about freshers earlier, but the thing that I've noticed, because I noticed this especially, which I like when I was at school, met lots of people and I knew lots of people, but then as soon as I came here, I encountered that, like, I didn't feel that, everyone was, well, I feel that everyone wanted to communicate, but, they didn't want to make the first step. So that's probably one of the biggest things I want to do is I want to integrate events with all years. It's an RVC. It's not just the BVN Med. It's not just the veterinary. It's a veterinary school, but it's not just the vet students. It's every degree, every course, no matter how old, no matter what age, no matter what your personal life. I want to include everyone. I understand obviously that if you're a parent, you might not be able to come out on the night out, but that doesn't mean that we're only going to be doing nights out. I want to be doing nights in. I want to be doing chill themes. Like one of the events I proposed is something that I actually got inspired from an actual company in London, is basically just getting some artists to come up and you just come with your friends, you just buy a ticket, you come with your friends, you bring your food, bring a drink, 2.5 hours, you just sit down, bring some cushions, you sit down, have your little picnic with your friends, and you get like some artists. So I'm going to try and find artists from London. Like you can, like a lot of people I know who are doing like music, so they'll know people that you give like 20-minute set, 30-minute set for each artist, have a break in between, you can chat with your friends, come back, second artist performs. So I want to cater to more of those chill vibes, because as much as I know people are very eager to go out, just like I am, it's not, after a while we're going to have satisfied, I think, that initial urge to want to go out and want to have fun. So that's why I want to mix and combine. I want to do chill at home stuff you can do in your bed if you want, stuff you can go chill at a friend's house and just do online, whilst also doing some events. But it's all about integrating, which again all comes down to those activities where pre-games, where you can like socialize, where you meet people that you wouldn't have normally met otherwise in the club, or you wouldn't have gone to speak to at an event. I want that the communication to be established between all years, because you never know, you might make a new friend.
Thanks, Seb. Remy, what have you got to say about these points?
Yeah, like I totally agree again with Seb. Like not all events need to be at the night. It doesn't always need to be the big partying, although who doesn't love that? So yeah, if we have like day events, stuff like that, depending on parents' schedules, mix it up a little bit. And I think the fact with COVID, because we've been able to use online stuff, yes, I'm sure people are a bit bored of it, but if it's an option that you have there, I think that's brilliant. So if you've got kids or you've got family or like little kids you need to look after, you've got that option there, but you can still stay connected to everyone. So to people who live further away, that's me. I kind of live, it's annoying. I live in East London, but it's quite hard to get home from late night from London, because we haven't got overnight tubes for me. And also if I'm in Hawkshead, it's kind of hard to get home for me as well. So I think having people that are able to basically make sure everyone's okay, kind of like additional to your angels and your devils that you normally have, but kind of like Soho Angels, if anyone's had them before. They're basically not roam the streets late at night, but to help people that are drunk, lost, phones not charging, stuff like that. So basically to make sure that if someone's far away, that there's always a nice helping hand saying, if you can't get home, you know what, we'll contact the university if we can get you there and see if we can find you somewhere just to stay that's safe until we can get you home. So I think having that option there is really good for anyone that lives further away. Again, London and Pulse Bar, they're completely different areas. So get people used to that. And to postgraduate students as well, like Seb said, keeping it's not just for the freshers. And of course, remember, we've technically got 2 years to cater for, because 1 year's like missed out on that big event. So I think making it clear that everyone is welcome, having things that aren't just addressed to the first years is definitely, and undergraduate students is definitely a key thing. So yeah, mixing up more people, because yeah, I agree. You're going to meet people that you're probably going to work with, and that you can have big events with in the future. So having that connection there from the beginning is probably one of the best things you can do.
Cool, thank you both so much. I think we'll probably have to move on to another position at this point, but I'm sure people could just keep asking you questions all day because everyone cares a lot about their events for the year. So we're going to move on to the equality and diversity position. So if you guys want to switch your cameras around. I believe we have Threnody and Anantha here.
Yep.
Amazing. Do you guys just want to introduce yourself first of all? Threnody, if you want to go first, I can see you there.
Yeah, sure. So aloha, kaisho. Hi, I'm Threnody. I'm an upcoming final year student. I'm from Hawaii, but I've lived on the mainland US, in France, as well as in the UK. And I'm really excited to be running for your E&D candidate.
Anantha, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Anantha. I'm in second year of Vet Med, so I'll be in third year next year. I did BSc Biovet before this as well, so I've been here for a while. Kind of know how things work. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll get right into your questions. So the first question is, what actions have you already taken that you feel will help you in the role of E&D officer? So Threnody, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I'd love to. So as a student who's gone through the entire disabilities process at the RVC, I feel very comfortable working with the Advice Center, working with the university. I know that process intimately. As someone who comes from a non-traditional academic background, I feel very comfortable with dealing with a lot of the obstacles to coming to Vet Med. And I was social secretary for the Mountaineering Club, which, like I've mentioned in previous posts, made me realize how little support there is for students who are differently abled. And so one of the things I want to do is create funds for clubs to be more accessible to students and help with that RVC experience. So I really think that experience will help me in this role. In my previous degree, I was president of the pre-veterinary club. So I have a lot of experience working with admin and student bodies in academic and in social settings. Yeah, and then I guess lastly, I came from University of Hawaii at Manoa, which is a very politically active campus. They have a very unionized student population. So I feel like I have a lot of role models in how I want to comport myself as the E&D officer.
Amazing, thank you. Anantha?
Yeah, so as I ran for Equality and Diversity Officer last year and didn't get it, but I had a lot of ideas of what I wanted to do, but following on from the Black Lives Matter movement that started in 2020, from that, I think it gave me a lot of time to reflect and go back. But following on from that, I think I was looking into what the veterinary profession needs to be doing more. So following on from that, I sat on the RVCSU Racial Equality Task Group, where we discussed ideas on what the student body was, issues that we felt affected us, and what we felt the task group that Dan Tran leads, what they should be addressing. As well as that, I'm the RVC Vet Future Student Ambassador, and as part of that, I lead the diversity initiative. So as part of it, we work with all the ambassadors from all the different vet schools to achieve our diversity initiatives. I'm also part of Animal Aspirations, which if you haven't heard of, you should definitely check out their website. Little plug there. They're really, really great. The the whole point is just focusing on increasing diversity, so trying to encourage a wider range of people to enter vet school, and hopefully make that a better place. Yeah.
Perfect. So we've got another question, which you can start us on, which is, how much research into the role did you do before signing up for the elections, and how are you aware, and how aware are you of what the RVC and SU are currently doing? So Nantha, you can start us on that one.
Yeah. So I think as E&D officer, the main roles that can be divided into supporting and representing. I did a lot of research into how I can support and represent LGBTQ+ and disabilities at the RVC, and I think it's really, really important as E&D officer to listen to the student body. You should be a friendly face that people can approach to if they want to speak to you about their problems, or if they don't feel represented. That would be my role. So yeah, I did a lot of research into that, how students can be better supported at the university level. I did a bit of research into what other universities are doing, what other vet schools are doing, and I spoke to a lot of my friends who do identify as LGBTQ+. I can obviously bring first-hand experience as well into my role in supporting the BAME community as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Threnody?
Yeah. So I did pretty extensive research, which is why it took me a while to come up with my first statement about what I wanted to have, because I wanted to make sure I had all the information. And I think that's a really important part of the role, is being a point person for students and having a database of what's available, because it can be very overwhelming when you're trying to when you're trying to get support through the universities, knowing where to go and how to start. So I think a big part of our role is being the person that has that information, that's taken the time to do that research. So even for myself, I was looking through support for student parents, and it's not very straightforward to find. And if you really do some digging, you'll find there's a lot more resources for staff parents. So that's just one example of like how I did the research. Yeah.
Amazing. And just one of the questions that has been asked to all candidates this evening, if you could achieve just one thing next year, what would your focus be? And Threnody, if you want to take that one.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, if I could achieve one thing, I think it would be to set the precedent for an equity-based student support and to have consistent feedback loops to addressing it. I think it's really important to address the specific needs of different student populations and not assume that the same kind of support is a one-size-fits-all. And especially I want to make sure that we aren't just assuming it's a vet med fits all, that it's looking at all cohorts, all students, and that we're addressing their specific needs. So one of the things I want to do is have monthly kind of town hall style feedback sessions. So I want to have spaces, basically closed spaces, open dialogue. So spaces virtually, or hopefully next year at some point in person, where students from specific communities can discuss and then feedback what they need specifically and how we can adjust as needed.
Okay, Anantha?
So was the question one thing I'd like to achieve?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the main things I want to achieve if I become E&D officer, I would really like to do a diversity conference, similar to the one that Surrey University did. And I'd like to invite speakers from external organisations, for example, BVEDS, BV, LGBTQ+, the British Veterinary Chronic Illness Society as well. I think it's really important to incorporate other external organisations that already exist to support veterinary students, as well as us when we go out into the profession, and use that as a networking to meet other people. I think that'll be a great opportunity, and also using connections I've already built and made in these organisations it would be good if I could draw on them and make this happen. I think it would be really important for veterinary students as well if we could all attend. I think being able to find and connect people that look like you, that identify with you as well, it can really, really help. And as well as that, I wanted to do support groups, similar to what Trendy was saying. Ones that meet regularly. I think it's really pointless having just a survey or just a meeting like once a year or once every 6 months. I think it's really important to make sure these are like regular things, so that minority groups who may feel forgotten, they're able to come through and feel comfortable speaking about whatever it is, meeting new people, or if they've got anything they want to raise or they feel like the RVC could be doing better. And again, using the equality diversity role to support them and then represent them to the relevant bodies.
Thank you both so much. Some really good points made there. What we're going to do is we're actually going to move on to another position just so that we make sure that we get through everyone this evening. But I can see there has been a couple of questions in the chat, which we'll come back to once we've gone through everyone, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to chat this evening. But thank you both so much for coming. So we're going to go on to the undergraduate sciences role. So if those running for that position would like to put their cameras on. Yeah, so I believe we've got Lizzie and Eleanor here this evening. If you guys just want to introduce yourself, so if we start with Lizzie, and just tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, so I'm Lizzie and I'm running for the Undergraduate Science Officer position. I am in my second year of BioVat, and yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know.
Eleanor?
Hi, my name's Eleanor. I am currently third year biological sciences. I've done my most recent modules at King's, having done one at RVC, and I'm going into my MSci year next year, which will be my fourth year on Camden campus.
Perfect. So we'll get right into the questions. Obviously, this is a new role this year, so I'm sure people are wondering exactly what you're going to do with it. So the first question is, how do you plan to make sure every undergrad science course feels heard/represented? So Eleanor, if you want to take this one first.
Yeah, so having been part of the undergraduate sciences community for 3 years now, I think it's really important that course reps get listened to, because I always know that my course reps have done a lot. I know the WAB course reps and the ABWE course reps have always done a lot of work, and they just feel like they're never being listened to. So I feel like having this position in the SU where you've got a direct relation with the course reps from the undergrad sciences to get their voices heard in the SU, I think that would be one of the main things to at least make biosciences feel like they're being listened to. If they can just see even little changes in the SU, where the SU are emailing people back saying, want to hear more from you, want to hear more from your course reps, even just little changes like that I think would definitely improve morale in the course.
Thank you. And Lizzie?
Yeah, so as you said, this being a new role, we've got such a great opportunity to involve as many students as possible. Although it's one representative representing all bioscience students, I think something I would be really keen to bring to the role is involving as many groups of students that are interested as possible. So for each of the things in my manifesto that I've mentioned, whether that's like a social side or a more academic-based society, I'd be looking to collect committees or like task groups of as many students that are interested, so that people feel heard and represented, and like their voices and their actions are having a direct impact on the changes we can make for bioscience students in uni this year.
Thank you. And obviously saying that this is a new role, so another question is, how do you plan to make this role your own? Like, how do you envisage this role going forward? So if Lizzie, you want to start with this one.
Yeah, of course. That's such a great question. I think the most important thing is to hit the ground running. Having this opportunity to have the role for the first time, you kind of set a precedent for all the people that will follow, and you don't have anyone to follow in the footsteps of. So I think it's just going in confidently and setting about ideas, making sure they're carried forward, and kind of I guess taking up space within the SU, like getting to know everyone and finding responsibilities that can be associated with the role going forward is really important, because I think the key thing this year is to give this role so much purpose and influence within uni so that it can stay for many, many years and have a great impact for bioscience students.
That all sounds great. Eleanor?
Yeah, so I think I'd probably start off by talking to previous Camden VPs and see what they've done, because the role is going to be at least reasonably similar to the Camden VPs, and I want to get a gist of what they want to do in their role and what I can do and how I can adapt it. And I think definitely getting to talking to all the course reps, first years, second year, third years, and even the vet med course reps, and seeing if they would be interested in doing integrated stuff, because I feel this role isn't just about getting the biosciences heard. I feel it's about getting the biosciences feeling like they're welcome at the RVC, and talking to the vets and see what they get and what we can improve for bioscience is also, I think, a big part of the role. And to not really give up and just bang my head against that giant SU wall and get myself heard, I think is what I'd want to do.
Cool, thank you. So again, the same question that a lot of people have been asked this evening is, if you could just achieve one thing next year, what would you want that one thing to be? And Eleanor, you can start with this.
So as I've been saying for the past 2 weeks, I think I'm boring people with it now, is that I don't want little changes. So we can have a ball, we can have dinners, we can have socials. But what I really want is a whole mental shift from the current mental state that the biosciences have, where they feel they're not being listened to. I want a whole mental shift to feel like RVC is their home and they are being listened to. And I know that I can at least get halfway there, if not the whole way there, within a year, if we just try and try and try, even if it is just little things. But I want that whole big mental shift to feel like we are part of the RVC, because we are, and we're a whole cohort, and there's at least 100 in each year, and we're actually quite a substantial part, especially at Camden, where we take up most of the space. I think just that mental shift to feel like we belong at the university, so people can be happy when they leave and they can feel like they had a good time at university and they were part of the community, and they were wanted at the university.
Thank you. And Lizzie?
I think if I could achieve one thing with the role over the course of the year, it would be to give bioscience students confidence. So whether that's confidence that they are a welcome and equal member of the university, or whether it's confidence in their ability to go on to postgraduate roles, be it like masters or vet medicine, dentistry, whatever it is they want to do next. Or even like confidence in their lab skills. One of the major parts of my manifesto I've been talking about is making up for this lost time over the pandemic. And essentially what everything amounts to that I would bring to the role is I want to give undergraduate science students confidence.
Some really great points from both of you. Thank you very much for coming this evening. That's the end of your guys' questions for now. But obviously, if there are any more general questions later, then I'll ask you. But I think it's really great to see this role coming into the SU, and I'm sure whichever of you get it, I really look forward to seeing what you guys achieve next year. So we're going to move on to the next role, which, if I just get it up, is actually leading on to this. It's another slightly new / adjusted role, which is VP Camden. So this was previously just an officer role, and now we have turned it into a VP role, meaning that they have slightly more weight in the SU and they take on a slightly more general role as well. We wanted to make sure that we were getting that presence from the Camden side. So if those running for the Camden Officer position, if they want to put their cameras on. I think we've got Priya and Jessica here. Oh, sorry, you disappeared on my screen. So if you guys just want to introduce yourselves while I get the questions up. So if Priya, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Priya. I'm currently in first year BVet Med, so I'll be in second year next year. I've been course rep this year, and I just wanted to continue sort of in a bigger role maybe.
Perfect. And Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jess. and I'm currently in my 3rd year of an MSci Biological Sciences. And yeah, I just wanted to be here because we need more bioscience representation in the SU.
Okay, so the first question is, how would you make more of an SU presence on the Camden campus? So if Jessica, you want to start with this one.
Yeah, I mean, throughout all of the Q&A meetings that have occurred over the last week and a half, something that's really been discussed is, because a large majority of VSU is based at Hawkshead, I've spoken with many of the candidates and they're all very willing to make themselves very present, especially during Freshers Week, just to make their faces known to all of the freshers, make their roles known as to how they can be approached, because although they're based in Hawkshead, their responsibilities do also lie with Camden, and it will be my job to make sure that they fulfill those responsibilities, especially to Camden students.
Okay, Priya?
I totally agree that everyone's been great in saying how they'd be able to travel between the 2 campuses. I'd plan to sort of maybe form some more clubs and societies that are Camden based, so maybe things that could be specifically done here, so that there's more sort of socializing here as well as at Hawkshead.
Thank you both. This sort of leads on from that. So someone has asked, how would you let students know what your role is and how and what they can talk to you about? Because obviously this role is slightly new and it sort of needs re-advertising to students. So Priya?
I think this year has been really great in getting everyone to use social media. So I think that would be a big way in promoting what the role does. And also maybe small videos, especially in Freshers Week, so that everyone knows who you are. I remember when I started, we didn't really know who many people were. So it'd be great if every officer had to do a short video just introducing themselves so that everyone knows.
Okay, and Jessica?
Yeah, I do agree social media is a really handy tool. One of the ideas I had was, whether we're on campus or not to do with COVID, I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen come September, but my idea was to perhaps do like a Comic-Con style panel event with all members of the SU, where they can all introduce themselves and really explain explicitly what their role does for the students, to just make it crystal clear which person you go to for which problem. And alongside that, we can maybe give out some pamphlets or something like that, which explains the roles as well, just to make sure everyone has access to that information. And along with that, when I was searching through the SU website, I really don't think it's very easily accessible to figure out who the members are and how they're known or what they do. So I really feel like it should be easy, but you should be able to click on a role or someone's name and it takes you directly to a page which tells you what they can do for you.
Cool, thank you very much. So one of the other questions is the one that keeps coming up. If you could achieve just one thing next year, what would it be? So Jessica, if you want to start with this.
I think one of the main things that I want to do is to really integrate all the students at Camden campus. So the 1st and 2nd year vet meds, the ABWE, the WAB, the biosciences, even the postgraduate students. If you really had events that included everyone at a time that suits everyone, I think that will really help for people to communicate with each other and socialize more, especially after this pandemic. Like, the thing people want the most is to just talk to people, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, I think we can agree that everyone just wants to finally be able to socialize again. Priya?
I completely agree that I think socializing will be sort of key priority. Even if we are online, doing events that combine all the different courses that are based at Camden would be great. like maybe trying to host a quiz or something. I'd also love to create like a guide to Camden so that people, if it's still restrictions and we can only mix with like certain groups, they can do lots of different stuff around the city that's sort of unique to Camden.
Amazing. I think you've both got some really good ideas there, and I'm sure whoever gets in will be taking some of the other person's ideas and trying to implement them, because some really good plans there. So we're going to go on to the next position, which is the VP Treasurer role. So I'll just get up the questions. But if those running for Treasurer want to pop their cameras on, if you can.
Yep, sorry, unfortunately my camera is not working on this computer. It does work on my other computer, but that one, the microphone doesn't work. So I will be heard but not seen. I
think that's the better option, that we can hear you, so that's okay. Okay, I'll just grab up the questions. If you guys want to start introducing yourself, so Chantel, if you want to go first.
Yeah, hi there. For those who don't know me, I'm Chantel. Been at the RVC quite a while. I did go away and then I took the scenic route. So yeah, I would have been here 6 years this year. I'm currently in BVET Med 3, and I was previously the IVSA Officer for 2 years on the SU and absolutely loved it, which is why I'm interested in taking on the position now. So that's a little bit about me. Hand over to Sarah.
Yep. So hi, I'm Sarah. I am an upcoming final year student. If you absolutely need to see my face, you can check the SU website or any of the social media that I have. So I am on Facebook. I have a lot of experience already being a treasurer. I am the treasurer currently for the Student American Veterinary Medical Association, or SAVMA. I also have some previous career experience in biopharma for doing a lot of budgeting for my department. So I'm very, very happy having a productive conversation with the SU, the students, and of course the hierarchy that is at the RVC.
That leads very nicely onto this next question, which is, what experience do you have with handling finances and budgets? So Sarah, if you want to start off, I feel like you've already started on that question.
Yep, I am currently the SAVMA treasurer. So I am also the person that anytime you submit a reimbursement for SAVMA, I send it off to Willow and work with her to get it reimbursed. I am also the person that tells Legend, who is running for SU president and also is the current president of SAVMA, we have enough money to give back to the students. Like I do organize the food vouchers. I also organize any of the scholarships that come through SAVMA. This includes the ones that we run annually and then any new ones that come from the committee. As far as career experience, so I was a scientist for many years. I still am, but I have a lot of experience with sort of categorizing issues that arise in departments and coming up with tangible solutions so we can present them to higher management so we can filter money to address them.
Thanks, Chantal.
Yeah, hi there. So with money, I guess the experience that I have that's most related to it is during my IVSA role, I was the treasurer for the entirety of that duration. Mainly involved, especially when we had the exchanges, was moving a lot of money around and working really closely with Tisha and Willow, who are absolute godsend, because at one point we would have nearly 30,000 coming out of the account. Dealing with such high amounts of money was stressful, but once we managed to get Mo Bank sorted, yeah, it was really good. We had every challenge that we came up against was managed to work out. But yeah, so like main budgeting, when you have for our exchanges, we would have on one occasion with 50 students, 50 international students coming over. We have thought out their transport, and that involved transport costs all over, getting them in and out of London, their food costs while they're here, activities, and all that budgeting was down to me. I had an amazing organising committee who worked with me and really helped keep things organised. And yeah, I guess that's where I learned how the SU money system works, and how the budget can be like squeezed and really used and utilised in the best places. I think sometimes we can, in the past we've been a bit busy with money, and haven't always made the most, got the most out of it that we could have. So yeah, I mean, as I said in my manifesto, I am the ultimate bargain hunter. Wheeler deal. If somebody says this is £6, I'm going to get it 5 minimum, maximum. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks. I feel like we've just all spotted your dog, Chantal, which is a nice addition. I'm sad we haven't had more pets this evening. That's a nice little companion.
Yeah, if she starts falling, I do apologise.
So the next question is, do you have any experience liaising with clubs and societies? Have you had experience as a treasurer of a club or anything similar that you feel will have prepared you for this role? So Chantal, you can go on this one.
Yeah, so for IVSA, I was the treasurer for 2 years and was in sole charge of that. So that's my experience with that. In regards to other societies, we did try and do a few collaborations with different societies. I was part of the women's football team, and I organised a tour last year with another 3 people. Absolutely amazing. It was my job to sort out the money. I had everything come to my account. Then I sorted the flights coming out. Being tour sec treasurer and the IVSA for 2 years has made me feel pretty confident, pretty good with line banking, and getting student discount. Yeah.
Cool. And Sarah?
Sorry, I'm just distracted. Somebody has a snail in the chat. I love snails. But yeah, so as I said, I am the SAVMA treasurer currently right now. So that has prepared me a lot for how money comes out of the SU and how clubs are funded and how we lobby for funding from the student union. Additionally, we also answer to the National American Veterinary Association that gives us funding for student events such as wellness, any sort of wellness events. So you may have done vet yoga with us. You may have also seen, and this leads into collaborations with other clubs. I have collaborated with a lot. If you have seen the forensic vet series that we run through SAVMA, so that is a collaboration with, I'm a part of Student Animal Welfare Society and Pathology Club and Shelter Medicine Club.
Thanks. So the other question is the one that I've been asking a lot, which is, if you could just achieve one thing next year, what would you want that thing to be? So Chantal, you can start on this one.
Yeah, so part of my manifesto from being on the SU for apart from last year, the last 2 years, is that when new clubs start, they really struggle to the ground. So there's a lot of first-time costs for clubs. So when they set up the Beekeeping Society, that had an initial first cost, which they didn't need throughout the year or every year, but they just needed like a set amount to be able to, for equipment, the beekeeping suits, hives, that sort of thing. Oh, sorry. And so yeah, so initially, what I'd like to do is to speak to the SU staff, get it sorted, and try and set up like a new starter fund, so just for new clubs, to help get them off the ground, get them started, and give them a positive chance of making it big, basically RVC. So that's one of the things. And also, actually following Ellie Bain's recent email about the money, I'm sure you've all seen it. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's just the sort of thing that I would like to do and have it regularly. So keep you up to date with bursaries, keep you up to date with scholarships and grants. There are so many out there that are available to us. We don't really know where to look. for the last few years, I've been pretty tight for cash, and I applied to quite a few, and I managed to get one for nearly £3,500, and not many people applied to it. And there was a lot of legwork you had to do, and the only reason I heard about it was through somebody else. And it was quite daunting at first to think, oh, I have to message Stuart Reid, I have to get a letter of recommendation. I thought, oh, is this going to be feasible? Is this a lot of work for nothing? And she assured me it's so worth doing. So yeah, I did it with a bit of her help, and I think it's that help. It's having somebody to ask for, just for a bit of guidance with applying to those sort of things. It can be daunting. So I'd really like to help support students and just giving them a point of direction where they could go with it. There's so much money out there that's available to us. Why we need to make use of it. So yeah.
Thanks. Really good points there. Sarah?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Chantal about opening up a better line of communication with the RVC regarding the scholarships and bursaries that are available to us. So one thing that, because I am a final year student, I am also an international student, the biggest issue that our cohort has had, and many other students, is the issue of sort of clarifying and defining what the tuition is used for. So that's something that I would definitely like to have a conversation with the RVC and the SU about, because as Chantal said, if there is money available to give back to the students, why don't we utilize it? And that may come from conversations down the line about how the SU is utilizing it, how it allocates funds to certain startup clubs, and what is the best option to make sure that every student gets something back, not just through applying for a scholarship, because every student on this call, every student in the RVC does deserve a little something back, because we all have struggled personally in COVID-19 especially.
Cool. Thank you both very much for that. Some really good points. We're going to move on to the next position, but obviously you guys are welcome to stick around, but thanks so much for coming. So we're going to go on to VP activities now. So I think we've got Beth and Matty both here. So I'm just going to get up your questions. If you guys want to introduce yourselves. So Beth, if you want to go first.
Hello everyone, my name's Beth. I am in BVET Med 4. I had to think too hard about that. And so yeah, next year I'll be in BVET Med 5, and I want to be your VP Activities and Campaign.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I am also in BVET Med 4. I fully understand not being able to think because we haven't had uni in like 3 months. It's been great. I'm also running for VP Activities and Campaigns. I'm currently in my 3rd term as president for the Performing Arts Society, and I hope Beth and I can both impress you.
Cool. So the first question is, how will you improve the currently poor communication between sports teams and the SU? So Beth, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, I think this is something that I'm really quite passionate about. So just as a little bit of background, I have been part of the hockey club committee as social sec and also as club secretary, but also I've sat on the SU for the past 2 years with AVS as junior and senior representative. And kind of the discrepancy between both sides of them roles is massive, in the sense that I can see the frustrations of the sports teams and societies as playing hockey and seeing that side of the frustrations. But I also see where the SU struggles and kind of have inside information on how the SU struggles to get their points across. I think for me, one of the main things is that the SU is contactable. In previous positions, I feel like it has been far too difficult to get a straight answer, and even to the point where sometimes I would rather the SU hold up their hands and say, actually, we're not quite sure about this, rather than just lead people on and continue to give a date and a further date and a further date when things actually aren't done by these dates through no fault of other people's. I think it's also really important that we utilise social media like we have been doing for the past year. But I think that we used to have a fantastic page of achievements where kind of captains, presidents would post things that had happened through the weeks. And I think it would be really nice to get that back up and going. So yeah, I think that would kind of be my 2 points. But I also think that regular meetings where we invite captains and presidents and work really closely with them, because they are kind of the easiest point of contact to get to the majority of students. And I think they often aren't utilised and appreciated enough by the SU, and they really can be influential in our student body. So that would be something that I would hope to open up even more.
Lovely, thanks Beth. If we go on to Matty.
So sort of echoing, just to start with echoing off of Beth, I think one of the big points, having also been involved in presidents and captains for the past 3 years, and even before that, I was sort of working as well way back with Misha, because I'm ancient and I've been here forever. I think that sort of the major point would be communication. I think it's not just a sports problem, but also a sports societies, organizations. I think that we all sort of struggle when approaching the SU. I'm not sort of a stranger of making my voice known at the president's meetings. If anyone has been to the president's meetings in the past 3 years, I really think that advocacy for some of the smaller societies has really been lacking. So I've always tried to put my best foot forward there. But I think one of the major things that would help improve not only just if I was elected, my personal communication with all of the different societies and sports teams, not just the presidents, but also their entire officer committees, but would be sort of a shared resource hub. One of my major points in my manifesto was a shared resource hub that just everyone can approach each other, because I think that a lot of people have information that's accessible, but doesn't really know how to get it across to certain people. And if you're sort of waiting for that one SU email, whether it's coming from the activities account or if it's coming from the president, I think that can be one of the major points of frustration, is that sometimes communication is not necessarily lacking, but much more of a speed problem. So I think that would be my major standpoint, is trying to get people to realize that like it's a reshuffling of resources, and also improving what we have in terms of communication.
Perfect, thank you. Going on to the next question, how will you help students who haven't yet joined societies because of COVID get involved next year? If Matty, you want to start.
Sure. I think that Jack has done an absolute brilliant job as best he could working through like the first year of COVID. Jack is the current VP activities, if anyone doesn't know that. But I think looking at what we had for freshers this year and what we've done since then, I think one of the major areas for improvement would be, again, sort of a resource sharing and also communication. I know that everyone, especially the sports teams, because it's so hard for a sports team to have a social that's not sort of like just like a come meet us social. You know, some of the societies can have a more geared activity. If it's ZooSoc, they can say, oh, come to this lecture, meet us afterwards, stuff like that. I think that in COVID, it's been a lot harder for the sports teams. So I think that improving not only what Jack has brought this year, but also going forward. I know that in previous sort of Q&As that some of the candidates have, one of the big questions was post-grads. They don't necessarily get exposed to the fresher events because they're not on campus for the first 2 weeks, excuse me. So making sure that all of those resources that are available in freshers are available to postgrads who might not be around, making sure that everything is accessible across courses and years and campuses. So working with the new bioscience officer, Camden officer, making sure that we're getting all of that as well, because I think that accessibility to approach a club is not necessarily the main problem. It's much more of a exposure and making sure that it's attractive enough.
Lovely, some really good points there. Thanks, Matty. Should we go back to Beth?
Yeah, I'm just scribbling because I have a brain like a sieve. Yeah, so just to refresh, it was what are we going to do for the freshers that haven't been able to join this year? And I think it's a really interesting point, because ideally we would be back in a situation where we could interact. And if that was the case, I would definitely want to open up the Freshers' Fair to what will be the second years as well, even run it maybe across 2 days, because like Matty said, people have held like come and meet the team, but meeting someone in person is very different to being able to join a Zoom call, which even for the bubbliest person can be socially daunting. I think it's also really important that we use our resources to our maximum levels. So I know I've talked a lot about sports, and I am aware that societies play just as much as a role in some people's social life. But for example, the VP activities and campaigns works quite closely with Books League for sports, and they have offered a range of kind of activities to replace their in-person sport. And I think it would be really important to publicise these. Another thing would be the fact that I think the older members of RVC, so the people that have established kind of where their hobbies and interests lie in sports and societies, they're aware how much of a role new faces play in keeping clubs alive. So for me, it would be really important to not just forget about the people that have kind of already established these groups and work with them and see how we can support freshers and second years to join that kind of situation where it will be comfortable for them to join, whether that's using the facilities at Hawkshead to be able to invite freshers up, or whether it's being able to use connections within other universities within central London to invite freshers without them having to make the journey, simply for a taster session, and then see how we can then make it easier to transport that interest up to taking the train journey to Hawkshead, which a lot of clubs and societies will demand from them. So that would kind of be my overview of that.
Cool, thanks very much, Beth. So just a final question for you guys, which has come up a couple of times actually. Obviously you're both going into 5th year. How do you envisage that you're going to balance this role alongside your studies and placements, etc.? If Beth, you want to go first? Yeah,
so I thought long and hard about this, because before I applied to the role, I didn't want it to be something that I would do kind of half-assed. Am I allowed to say that? So I did really think about it. So through my time at university, I've always tried to be as active a member as possible within the student body, because I really don't think you can complain unless you put yourself out in the position to be the one making the decisions. So for example, I have been with AVS for 2 years. I helped organise AVS Congress when it came to RVC. I organised the my year's halfway dinner. I was president for that committee. I've played hockey and held committee positions, and I also have worked part-time jobs throughout. So I think that proves that I am able to balance my time quite well. I also think that it's really important that people have an outlet, and whether that is a sport, a society, or being able to make a difference in a non-academic way, like joining the SU, is really important for me. And I also believe in just getting stuff done, less of the fluff, which I think a lot of it, with the greatest will in the world, part of the SU and sitting on it, there comes a lot of fluff with that I've seen in the past couple of years. So I do think that it is a valid concern having 5th years. I'm in a lucky position, and I know it's not fair to say, but I've completed all my EMS now. So I won't have them demands at the moment. Matty's like, you.
I literally am like sitting here being like, oh, wow.
But I also won't have them demands, but I know that's not fair to say. But what I want to say is my university experience is a balance between academics and all the rest that should come with university. And I think now I'm a bit more, more mature, in the sense that I'm willing to put some of my time into kind of leading the student body rather than just dancing in Zuba.
Cool. Thanks very much, Beth. We'll hand over to Matty.
I think my major points that I'd want to bring off as like a 5th year in the role, I think being president of past the last 3 years, and also I've also been the artistic director for the 2 shows that we put on, which is like a huge monumental task that takes months and months and months, and organizing tons of people. I think that the major takeaways from that is not only time management, which I am quite good at. I know that everyone who came to our last Q&A saw my 38,000 unopened emails, which is fine because I answer all the important emails. But in terms of my time management, I feel like that sort of speaks for itself, and just the amount of workload that I've taken on in the past, which I'm not going to have this year. I'm officially retiring from being in charge of performing arts, at least. And then the second thing is also an organizational standpoint. I feel like this role has such a huge capacity that you can take on yourself, which I'm extremely happy to do, but also knowing when to specifically approach whoever gets elected as treasurer, whoever gets elected for certain officers like undergrad science or equality and diversity, or the biosciences, and working as a team, I think is so important. I know that's not necessarily like reflective of what is me being a 5th year, but I think that having that sort of background will help me in my time management and organization. And I know that Beth as well probably will be dealing with not delegating, but working with best the team that she can as well.
Cool. I'm sure you guys can squeeze it into your 5th year schedule. But thanks very much for coming this evening and for chatting. We're going to move on to our next role now, which is VP Welfare. So I believe we have Hasita here this evening, and I think that we also have we have Georgina here as well. So we have a couple of questions for welfare, but if you guys just really briefly just want to introduce yourselves. So Georgina, you can kick off if you like.
Hi, I'm Georgina. I'm running for VP Welfare. I'm also in BVET Med 4, so I'm sure that how you're going to manage and final year question is going to come up. I've been at RVC since my 5th year. I intercalated in the bioscience course after 2nd year, so I've been kind of both sides of RVC. And my main points for kind of running are basically to improve access to the resources that are already there, and to basically fight for you to make sure you gain all the things that you guys need.
And Hasita?
Hi, I'm Hasita. I'm running for Welfare Officer. I'm in 2nd year of BVET Med, so I'll be in 3rd year next year. But I've also been here forever. I've been here for 6 years. I did the bioscience course before, which was 4 years. So I've been based at Camden for this whole time, so I can appreciate the side of Camden and the undergrad candidates. And I guess if I'm going to summarize why I'm running like Georgina did, my aspect is to improve the mental health support and also the physical and emotional support available at university, as well as making students aware from the very start of their degrees and throughout their degrees.
Thanks very much. So we've had a couple of questions in, and they all seem to sort of repeat themselves, that people would just like to know what your main goals are as welfare officer, and how you're going to target sort of the decline in mental health that's sort of come hand in hand with the pandemic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give each of you 2 minutes just to chat about this, because it's quite a general question and sort of just to talk about what your aims are. So if Hasita, you're happy to go first.
Yeah, so I'm just going to keep looking on this screen because I have my stuff up there and I'm forgetful. So I kind of broke down my manifesto into 6 main points. I'm not going to waffle you for all of them. But in terms of mental health, I want to start off by providing students with kind of an info booklet of exactly what support we already have, and office hours and contact details of both at RVC and also like NHS and charity things that are available to students. And I also want to continually evaluate what's available. So I want to add a couple questions to this termly surveys we already get. So I don't want more surveys because nobody wants that, but I do want to increase the questions just to continually evaluate what's happening, and then do that in other ways as well. So have town hall style meetings, which would be both staffed and unstaffed, just to get as best feedback as we can so that we can be proactive rather than reactive, because I think the advice centre and the college in general at the minute are quite reactive. And then I want to increase awareness and transparency, which I know is something when I was E&D officer 2 years ago, transparency was the big issue. But so hopefully like this guide would increase transparency from the very start, and it would be accessible for all students, not just freshers. And then kind of, so with each survey, I want to have some kind of report written up so I would write this report, and it would hopefully be as digestible and readable as possible. And that would be circulated to all students. So students are being constantly updated with the progress and which things are being prioritized before others, so that if then students feel, oh no, I think this thing should be prioritized, they can. And then I know that Ellie started a Facebook group, the diversity and the disability and neurodiversity page, sorry, and I want to continue developing that because I do like that idea from her, and I think it'd be a shame to stop that. So continuity on that side, and support for those with chronic illnesses as well as learning disabilities and those who are and aren't diagnosed, because diagnoses are quite expensive. I know mine was a lot of money all those years ago when I had mine. Yeah, I think that sums it up as best as I can in 2 minutes.
Was perfectly timed. Okay, well done, Caesar. Georgina, if you wanna say your bits in 2 minutes.
I guess there's kind of two aspects. The question is like what the goals for next year and what to do to improve the pandemic and the pandemic impact on mental health. So my goals are it's more about action. So taking action to give everyone the support they need. Firstly, I've spent quite a lot of time looking through Learn and the internet to try and find resources, and yet every time I've been to a Q&A in the last 2 weeks, someone has been like, oh, there's also this additional resource. So if I, who have spent quite a lot of hours in the last months and months since I started university, really been looking at these resources, can't find them, how are we expecting a fresher who comes in, who needs these support, to find these resources? So one of my main things I plan to do is address the lack of resources, the difficulty to access the resources, and I plan on doing that by having regular office hours, so people can approach me and say I need this, and then I will be the one to go, okay, we need this specific thing, and I'll be the one to go basically do the grunt work for the student to make sure that their life is easier for them and they have other things to worry about, which is obviously especially important for people that already have mental health challenges. They're trying to cope and get on with the university side of things, as well as then having to spend all this extra time and effort on these other things. So that's one of the things I'd like to do, is basically work closely with the advice centre to find out what resources they have and how to help the individual students that approach me. Obviously, I know the RVCSU does have sometimes they're not the best, not that they're really good, but they don't always get that much student attention, so people don't always contact them that much. So I really want my face to be a friendly face that's plastered all over campus, and people are like, this is the girl, she does welfare, I can approach her with anything and she'll give me a helping hand, or at least point me in the right direction to know where I can go to get support. So that's definitely one of my major proposals. In addition, for people that maybe don't need resources, but to stop a welfare decline even further, I plan on running welfare weekends, which are effectively once a term, similar to varsity, once a term, working with all the sports and socks and having a massive event where we can have like puppy parties and then fun games like rounders, or like fun sports like egg and spoon and sack races in the summer, those kind of things, but once a term to make sure everyone can get involved, and then people get to know me, and obviously we have some people from the advice centres there and stalls like that to try and make it more interactive and more engaging, so people actually interact with me as the welfare officer. I don't know how many minutes I have.
You have a few more seconds. Say your last bits.
Also, one of the things I also want to do is create a mental health section on the RVC app, because I know it's quite a helpful app and I quite like using it, but there's no immediate resources for people at the RVC that need access immediately right now. So if you're having a panic attack and you need access to resources, I want them to be there for you at the click of a button, whether on the RVCSU website, which I could help write, or on the RVCSU app. So yeah, they're my main points.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, both of you. That was a really incredible whistle-stop tour of both of your manifestos, and I think that's just what people wanted, to sort of know your main points and what your guys' aims were. So that was really interesting to listen to. Thank you. So we're gonna, for now, just move on to our next role, which is the VP Rep Comms role. So I think we've got Pam and Danny here. If you guys just want to quickly introduce yourself, Pam, if you want to go first. You're on.
Hi everyone. I'm Pam. Sorry, technology clearly isn't my forte. I did Gateway, and next year I'm going to be BVET Med 3. I was half of the ENTS team this year, so you might have seen my face dotted around. And yeah, and I'm running for VP Rep Comms.
Danny?
Hi, yeah, I'm running for VP Rep Comms. I am in my 3rd year of the BVet Med course, but like Pam, I also did Gateway. So next year will actually be my 5th year at RVC. And I really do feel like part of the RVC family, and I spend 99% of my time in London. So I really do want to integrate myself more in the student activities.
Cool, so we've got a couple of questions. The first one being, what do you feel is the best way to assess student experience, i.e. surveys, forums, etc., etc.? If Danny, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I do think there isn't a right answer, otherwise we would have 100% feedback every survey or every opportunity we give, and it's never the case. From being a course rep, I've seen that the feedback results and percentages are normally maximum of 30 to 40% per cohort. So I'm really keen to figure out alternatives, and then there isn't really any alternatives. I've discovered this as course rep for 2 years, and especially when it's all virtual, it's so hard. But I think there are a few ways we could change it. And even if we offer surveys as well as drop-in sessions, as well as coffee mornings or Zoom sessions, anything that I can, drop-ins in lectures, polls on lectures, people can just quickly answer a question. I think that is the best way to cultivate all of that feedback into one big ball, give it to the RVCSU and discuss it there, and then feed back to the student cohort.
Thank you, Pam.
So we all get surveys in our emails, and all of us are guilty of sometimes not answering them. So I know how hard it can be, especially with online learning, about answering surveys and missing surveys and things like that, even though they are a really good tool. So making it as easy as possible for students to see the surveys and answer them, like whether that be they're posted by the course reps on cohort pages, or they're like there's polls or drop-in sessions, just any way that we can make students really obviously aware that we are asking them for their satisfaction ratings and their concerns and ideas, that we just want to be really present, I feel. So just any possible way to make it really, really easy for people to see it and say, yeah, actually, I'll just quickly click on this link. It'll take me 3 seconds.
Cool, thank you both. So again, I'm going to ask the question, if you could achieve one thing next year, what would you focus on that one thing to be? So Pam, you can start.
So having been in the SU this last year, I know that not everything gets done overnight, and I'm quite realistic about that. So I think the main thing I want to do is make it really obvious to, whether that be new students or old students here, who their SU are and what their roles are. Because when I was applying for the role, I looked through the roles for election, and like I looked at the Rep Comms section, and I'm like dumbed it down for myself. So I think making it really obvious and really clear, so people are actually encouraged to use us, and we end up hearing their concerns before they feel the need, like they feel like screaming and thinking that no one's listening to them. So they actually use us.
Thank you. And Danny?
That's a really good point. And I'd like to say that the way I see it is, this isn't just going to, if we do go back on campus or we continue to be online for the next academic year, it's not going to be smooth sailing. And regardless of what the outcome is, my main goal is to help with the ease of transition into whatever we have to do. So if it is an additional on-campus, virtual term, to help improve what's already been done, to learn from what experiences we've got. But if it is on campus, it's not going to be normal. We're expecting it to go back to normal, but I personally am going to be terrified to go say hi to people on campus. And I think students really need to see that it's okay to be concerned. I really want to help facilitate that transition, but not just throughout the beginning of the year, obviously support them throughout the year, especially through like the college family schemes that I've mentioned in my manifesto. Just throughout the year, my goal is to make sure students feel comfortable, safe and supported on campus as well as virtually.
Thanks very much. So just another question for you guys is, what do you think you can personally bring to this role? So if Danny...
Yeah, so I feel like I have so much experience in so many different areas. I have simultaneously had 2 part-time jobs for the past 3 years. I have been course rep for the past 2 years. I've been a social sec president and vice president / co-founder on in 2 different committees. And so yeah, I feel like as doing course rep, I feel like I have tried to integrate in RVC in as many ways as possible, and I feel like I'm perfect for the role, as I have so much behind the scenes experience that you may not necessarily know is involved with these sorts of roles, but so many different meetings. I've been to the SU meetings as course rep, as well as the CMC meetings for the course where I talk to the year leaders. So I really do feel like personally I have given it my all, and next year I will hopefully have a bit of an easier year. I've tried to get as much EMS booked before the year starts, and I also have tried to think of my research project a year in advance, so I'm not kind of swamped last minute with all of these things going on.
Oh, I'm very impressed. I'm barely on it with my research project now, so you're way ahead of the game. Pam?
Without shadowing what Danny said too much, I do literally try and throw myself into everything at RVC. So I was entertainment officer the last year, so that's given me a chance to look at how the SU works and what like the structure is and how things are done. I haven't been a course rep, and I'm quite open about that when people ask, but I do think that it kind of works in my advantage a little bit, because I think that me having not been course rep, I can really put a fresh set of eyes on course rep training, how they're like integrated, because they are the first point of call for a lot of students. I'm not sure what else to say. I'm quite bubbly and outgoing, and if you've spoken to me outside of the SU, you know I'm quite chatty and friendly. So I think that a friendly face is always appreciated amongst any role in the SU. I also will say that I am quite a strong personality, so I can tend to be quite assertive, which I think would work in my favour when working with people, because I think I am assertive, but I'm also fair. So if someone talks to me, I'm like, I can see a balanced argument quite well. And I'm really excited to work with other VPs and officers to look at different projects and get that out there to students.
Cool, thanks very much. Well, that's actually the last of your guys' questions, but I'm sure whoever gets the role will do an incredible job, and I look forward to handing over to one of you. So we are actually on to the presidential position. So if Sam and Legend are around, well done to making it this far. We're on the final position. So if you guys want to introduce yourself briefly, if Sam, you want to start.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sam and I'm running for SU president. I'm actually the current vice president treasurer of the SU, and that's been really fun for the last year. I'm going into my final year of the vet course, and it'll be my 6th year at the RVC because I intercalated in comparative pathology between years 2 and 3. I mentioned snails, so I thought I'd bring it. This is Donkey. He's just chilling here. He's my mascot. And yeah, if you can't tell by the state of my bedroom walls, I'm absolutely obsessed with musicals. So that's a bit about me.
Thanks, and hi to Donkey. Legend?
Hi everyone, my name's Legend. Despite what Facebook says calling me Alexandra, that's another story for another day. I am currently a BVet Med 3 student, so I'll be going into BVet Med 4 next year. For the past 3 years, I have been involved or led SAVMA, which Sarah gave you the introduction to that earlier. I sat on the SU Council 2 years ago, but my main reason for running is I would not currently still be at RVC if not for the SU and a couple specific officers 2 years ago. So my way of saying thank you and giving back not only to the SU Council, but the whole RVC community, since our whole goal is to support and take care of one another.
Thanks very much. So the first question sort of ties into the question regarding 5th years earlier, but it's generally to both of you, is how do you plan on balancing the role of president with your studies? So Legend, if you want to kick off.
Sure. So I already stated I'll be going into 4th year. However, the workload per course year is its own entity in itself. Even though I am currently the president of SAVMA, we will be having our elections in May. So a new president-elect will be coming on board to take over the reins for me to train and therefore take off some of the weight load in terms of my presidency moving forward, along with typical transitions. In terms of maintaining coursework and everything like that, I feel my time management skills are very strong. Plus, I also know where all the support is for my own individual studies and also know my own strengths and weaknesses and know when to ask for help if I am ever having trouble. Plus, the whole idea of the SU, if I am successful, is a collaborative network. So being able to rely on the other officers for all of us to work together to achieve the goals we want to.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, so I feel like it fits quite well with the final year, despite what some people might think, because like our schedule changes a lot week by week, and so that it does leave like free time in random places that sort of allows us to get the work done that we need to. And I think I've already demonstrated my ability to like balance my studies with my role on the SU, given the past 6 months that I've spent as the Vice President Treasurer. Because I really do try and get back to people as quick as I can with that. And I'm really good at like keeping track of the emails that come in and like what needs to be done and all of that. And the other thing with that I really wanted to mention is like relying on the other officers as well, because I think whilst it is really important that the president is there to sort of oversee a lot of what happens in the SU, like looking at some of the manifestos and the campaigns that have come in from everyone running for other roles, like there's some really fantastic ideas and some really fantastic initiatives that people want to run. And I'm like super excited to see people running those. And honestly, I feel like you could almost leave a lot of the other officers to just get on with it, and the SU would be running fantastically because there really are some fantastic people up for these roles.
Amazing, thanks very much. So one of the questions is that the college is sometimes seen as being extremely cautious regarding COVID. How would you go about deciding how and when restrictions over SU events could be lifted? And how would you come to an agreement with the college over this? So Sam, if you want to go with this one first.
Yeah, so I think the main point behind that is like we are obliged to follow what the college says on that. And as much as we can present like our views on it and the students' views, ultimately what the college says on it is final. But making sure that the student views on those matters are heard is like really important, and making sure that like we're there to fight, not necessarily against the college, but fight for the students in making those decisions that affect all of us is really important.
Thanks. Legend?
I absolutely agree with Sam. One thing though, especially hearing the cry from the students, is they sometimes feel that the SU, as well as the college, depending on which manner you're looking at, is complacent at times, that their views aren't being heard, aren't being taken to the correct people. I think the whole approach we need to have is how we are presenting the students' opinions, making sure they're heard, of course, and then giving the answers back to the students, as well as moving forward in a feasible manner, since we don't know when COVID is going to end and the actions that are going to be taken. Having not only a plan A, but a plan B and a plan C of how we're going to target all the initiatives that need done. I mean, just look at the freshers from last year, how we are going to be able to incorporate them to this year's freshers, have a plan of action to include all the students in a COVID safe manner if presented. So I think having that firm, open communication and transparency between students to SU to administration is vitally important moving forward.
Some really good points there made by both of you. Obviously, we don't know what COVID's going to bring us, but it's really good to be prepared. So the next question is, what experiences have you had that you feel have prepared you for the presidential role? So if Legend, do you want to go first?
Sure. Even though some of these things are highlighted in my manifesto, I am currently the SAVMA chapter president for RVC. Also, in a past life, I was the National American Pre-Veterinary Medical Association president, taking care of over 6,000 pre-veterinary students across the country in America, as well as leading goals as the National Government Affairs Committee chair for SAVMA in the United States as well. Now, granted, all of these things are titles. However, one thing I have learned with leadership is leadership requires clarity, expression, being open to everyone's opinions, understanding, and building bridges. So yes, even though the presidential role in the SU is the title, and some people say the face of the SU to represent to the college. I believe it's manifesting everyone's opinions, not only in the SU, but every single student that attends RVC. So the vet meds, the bioscience, the nurses, the graduates, and all the other levels of diversity that make up our college. So the way in order I find myself to go into this role is to keep myself completely open. Yes, I've had my own titles, but full on immerse myself into the SU environment and truly what the students needs, listen to them, and take action to make those goals happen over time.
Sam?
So I think like my current role as VP Treasurer, I think has been really good experience. And it's almost just like a step up for me, I feel like. Because I've seen how the trustee board and the council works and how things get done in the SU, and annoyingly things can happen slowly, and it, as being a student, it can be quite difficult, like seeming like things aren't happening, but I think me having an understanding of how things are working in that is really beneficial, and I think I've also showed in what I've done as part of my role this year that like I'm willing to go above and beyond, because I have gone beyond sort of the minimum requirements of the treasurer role this year. I dedicated a very large chunk of time working with our postgrad officers on the RVCSU student experience survey. I've been doing a lot of the SU updates every fortnight. And I actually played a big part in writing the role requirement and doing the research for the Undergraduate Sciences Officer. And I was a really big advocate for that being brought into the SU. And I think all of those are sort of great examples of like what I can bring to the role and the experience that I have in this role.
Thanks very much. So I'm going to ask the question that I've been asking a lot of candidates this evening. If you could achieve one thing next year, what would it be? If Sam, you want to start on this?
Yeah, I hate to be that person, but I'm going to say two things. The first thing is to make sure that all students' voices and opinions are respected and listened to by the college in every decision that is being made that affects us. And the second one is just to work with all the other fantastic officers, as I've said, and make sure that all these amazing initiatives and campaigns that have been suggested get played out to their fullest extent.
Thank you. Legend?
For me, it comes in a package of authenticity and accessibility. I think all the candidates on this call have talked about making the SU accessible to the whole RVC environment. So that would be making our presence known down in Camden, rotating which officers are going to be in Camden versus Hawkshead for the next meeting, having office hours, signposting who we are, what we can do for you, and how you can reach us and how we can support you, or at least get you the answer you need. And in terms of authenticity, a lot of students half the time feel like they need permission to ask a question, be who they are, run the event they want to, or we all know this for a fact, imposter syndrome is very real in the RVC community, that they think, I have this problem or I have this question, I can't approach anyone about it. Yes, they can. So making sure that they know we are all there for them, we want to take care of them, and we're each going to take care of each other in the end.